I never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd have to deal with a family fight over an inheritance. But here I am, and I'm still questioning whether I did the right thing. So, let me backtrack. My dad passed away a few weeks ago. He had been battling leukemia for the past 4 years, and despite all the treatments, it eventually took him. It feels strange to even write that. It's like a part of my life just disappeared. The thing is, I've been without a mom since I was 7. She died from aplastic anemia, and my dad was my rock, even if we didn't always see eye to eye. After she passed, my dad had a series of relationships, but none of them lasted. Then, when I was 18, he started dating Veronica. They got married a couple of years later, making her my stepmom and her 2 kids, Jared and Sarah, my step-siblings. To be honest, I never really felt like they were family. I was already grown and living on my own, and when I came home, they weren't exactly welcoming. But we all managed to stay cordial, at least, until my dad got sick. I decided to move back home when he was diagnosed. I wanted to be there for him, but it wasn't exactly a warm reunion. Veronica, Jared, and Sarah never really made an effort to get along with me. In fact, the whole time I was there, it felt like they were actively avoiding me, like I was some kind of contamination. But whatever, I was there for my dad, not them. Then, in his last months, I moved in full-time to care for him. That's when I started seeing the cracks in the facade. They weren't happy about me being around. I could tell they were uncomfortable, but I didn't care. I was doing this for my dad, not to make friends. The funeral came and went, and I took care of everything. The step family? They barely said 2 words to me. A couple of weeks later, I received a call from my dad's lawyer. Turns out, my dad had left me everything. I'm talking about nearly $2 million. His estate, assets, bank accounts, and everything he'd inherited from my mom and my grandparents. All of it. I was stunned. Now, I know that amount of money sounds like a dream to most people, but it felt off. I wasn't expecting anything, and the fact that it was all left to me, I didn't really understand it. I asked the lawyer about Veronica and her kids, and he told me that they had only been left $10,000 each, which, don't get me wrong, is a lot of money for most people. But compared to what I got, it was a joke. So I stayed quiet. I didn't want to cause a stir. But then, it happened. A few days ago, I was served with a lawsuit. My stepmom and her kids were accusing me of manipulating my dad into leaving everything to me. They claimed I brainwashed him, that I somehow turned him against them. They were furious that all they got was $10,000 and nothing else. Apparently they'd found out about the will after demanding to see it and realized that they'd been left with nothing of real value. Here's where it gets a little crazy. I was shocked at first, but when I called my dad's lawyer, he told me something that made everything click. Apparently, the original plan had been to split the inheritance between the 3 of us. Me, Veronica, and her kids. But then Veronica, the ever-charming woman, decided that she and her kids should get the money. My mom and grandparents had left me too. That didn't sit well with my dad. They fought about it for months, and ultimately, my dad changed the will, leaving everything to me. It turns out, Veronica wasn't just after the money. She and her kids had been spending a lot of time with her ex-husband, Sarah and Jared's biological father, the same guy she had always painted as a villain. She told my dad he was a cheater, a deadbeat who didn't pay child support. But the truth was, they'd been seeing him all along. My dad caught wind of it and, after hiring a private investigator, he knew everything. Veronica and her kids had been playing him all along, and my dad knew it. That's why he left everything to me. At first, I felt bad for them. I even considered offering to split the inheritance, thinking maybe they were just upset over losing their stepdad, didn't know how to handle it. But after hearing all of this, I knew I had to fight them. They didn't deserve anything more. It wasn't just the money. It was the manipulation. So I decided to go to war. The lawyer said I had a rock-solid case. My dad had changed the will legally and knew exactly what he was doing. But then came another bombshell. A few days ago, I got an email from Veronica, and it really threw me off. She told me that they, too, had lost someone important to them, and that it wasn't the right time to be petty or vengeful. She said I needed to remember that we were all grieving. That email shook me. On one hand, I could feel the guilt creeping in, but on the other hand, I couldn't forget what they had done. So now, I'm stuck. Should I fight them, even though I know I'll probably win? Or should I just offer them a portion and try to move on? What do you think? Am I wrong for wanting to teach them a lesson, or should I be the bigger person and let it go? What do I do now? The lawsuit's in full swing, and they seem like they won't back down. But at the same time, am I just being spiteful, or are they really the ones in the wrong? It's been a few days since I last spoke to Veronica and the kids, and I've had time to think things through. I've been going back and forth about how to handle this situation. The lawyer says I've got a clear-cut case. The will is legally sound, and I don't really have anything to fear. But part of me still hesitates. Is it worth it to drag this out? What if I'm being too harsh? The thing is, after everything my dad went through, it feels wrong to just hand over any part of it. He knew what they were doing. All the lying, the manipulation, the scheming, and he still left me everything because he wanted to make sure that his assets were protected from people who didn't care about him, just his money. So why should I let them win? Why should I give them anything? A couple of nights ago, I sent them an email, basically laying out all the facts. I told them that my dad had known everything, that he'd had them investigated, and that it was clear to me they didn't deserve a cent more than what they'd been left. I wasn't about to let them guilt-trip me into feeling bad for them. I didn't expect much of a response, but I got one the next morning. And let me tell you, it threw me off. It wasn't the usual aggressive tone they'd had in their earlier emails. No, this time it was different. Veronica's response was full of grief and reminders of how we were all mourning and how it wasn't the right time to act vindictive. It made me second-guess myself for a moment. But the truth is, I know what they're doing. They're trying to emotionally manipulate me, and it's not going to work. They want me to back off and give them what they think they deserve. They want me to feel sorry for them. But I don't. The next day, I decided to take the advice of my lawyer and confront them directly. I wasn't going to let them keep pushing me around with empty threats. So I called Veronica and told her I wanted to speak to all of them at once. She agreed, and we arranged a time for a conference call. When the call started, it was just as tense as I expected. Veronica was trying to play the victim, Jared was already sulking, and Sarah was quiet. I don't know if it was guilt or just a lack of confidence, but she barely said a word. I took a deep breath and laid it out for them. I told them that the chances of them winning were practically zero, that they had no legal grounds for the lawsuit, and if they kept pursuing it, they'd only be throwing their money away. I told them that they needed to take the $10,000 they were given and move on with their lives. I didn't care how they felt about it. I wasn't going to be manipulated into doing the right thing by their standards. I also told them that they didn't deserve a penny more. Not after everything they'd done to my dad. They had shown their true colors, and I wasn't about to let them walk all over me. Veronica tried to argue, but I shut her down. Jared barely spoke, and Sarah, well, she just stayed silent. That's when I realized she was the only one who didn't seem entirely on board with the whole thing. The conversation didn't go well. They didn't back down. Instead, they doubled down. Veronica and Jared insisted that they had every right to challenge the will. They told me that I was being cruel, that I should be more generous with what my dad left me. But the truth is, I wasn't interested in negotiating. I wasn't about to split anything with them, and I made that very clear. I guess they didn't expect me to be so firm. They expected me to feel guilty and cave to their emotional manipulation, but I didn't. After all, my dad had already played his cards. He had made it crystal clear who he trusted, and it wasn't them. But even though I felt justified, I won't lie, a part of me still felt conflicted. It's hard to explain, but when you're dealing with family, it's tough to fully shut off the part of you that wants peace. A little voice inside kept saying, "Maybe you're going too far." But I drowned it out. This wasn't about me. It was about what my dad had wanted. A couple of days after the call, Sarah reached out to me. She was different this time. No anger, no bitterness, just a calm, regretful tone. She admitted that she had known what was going on, but had stayed silent because she didn't want to upset her mom or brother. She said she was sorry for everything, for not standing up for my dad, and for letting her family manipulate him. I was shocked. Honestly, I didn't expect her to be the one to reach out, especially after how everything had played out. She told me that she had tried to talk to Veronica and Jared, that they were so convinced they were entitled to the money that they wouldn't listen. She said that if they kept pursuing the lawsuit, they'd run out of money and lose everything they had, including their home. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt bad for her. She was in a tough spot, and I could tell she was genuinely struggling with the fallout of her family's actions. But I also knew that none of this would have happened if she had been more honest from the start, if she had spoken up when it mattered. At the same time, I couldn't just throw her a lifeline. She had made her choices, and it wasn't fair to reward that behavior. But, honestly, a part of me wanted to believe her. Maybe she wasn't as bad as the others. So I told her that I couldn't help her directly, but I wished her the best for the future. I wasn't going to get involved in their mess. After that, I blocked her. I figured it was the best move. I wasn't going to let any more of their drama bleed into my life. And then, just like that, everything changed. A couple of days later, my lawyer called me with an update. Sarah, apparently, had gone to Veronica and Jared and convinced them to drop the lawsuit. They were pulling out. No more fight. They realized they weren't going to win and had to cut their losses. I was surprised. Honestly, I thought they were just bluffing, but it turns out Sarah really did get through to them. And while I wasn't exactly jumping for joy, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. It was over. Now, with the lawsuit behind me, I've been focusing on what comes next. I've already made plans to quit my job and start a business. This inheritance was never something I asked for, but I'm not going to waste it. I've got ideas and dreams, and I'm going to make them happen, not just for me, but to honor my dad's memory. Life's moving on, and as much as I'm still grieving, I'm starting to see the future more clearly. I'm finally in control of my destiny, and I'm ready to build something that'll last. 2 years have passed since that whole mess, and life has changed in ways I never expected. The business I started has been growing steadily. There were tough times at the start, but I'm starting to see the results. I'm doing well, and I know my dad would be proud of what I've built. As for Sarah, well, she reached out to me again, and this time, I think I actually believe she's changed. She's living in Spain now, away from her family, and she apologized once again for everything that happened. She admitted that she was wrong, that she had stayed quiet for too long, and that she had finally stood up to Veronica and Jared. She also told me that she had left them behind and was focusing on her own life. I don't know what the future holds for her, but I do know that she's finally trying to make a better life for herself. Maybe, just maybe, she's learned something from all of this. As for me, I'm moving forward. Things have settled, and I'm finally starting to feel like I'm in control of my life again. It wasn't an easy journey, but I'm proud of where I am. And that's what matters most. Thanks for following my story. And remember, Sometimes doing the right thing means making the tough decisions, no matter how hard they are.